episode if you want to hear a real life growth story from a mom, a business owner, and one of my past clients of how she grew her clothing brand. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Small Business Growth Podcast. And I am so excited to bring you this episode. Today, I'm having a conversation with one of my past PTP clients, Brittany, and she is from Brittany Hartt Designs. You can go look her up on Instagram. She'll be linked in the show notes as well. And we really just wanted to have an open and honest conversation of what her year looked like. She worked with me in 2024 in January. Starting in January, she went through Product to Profit, and she really had great takeaways, some great growth throughout the year. And I wanted to share her journey and her insights with you. This is something that we get a lot of requests for, is just really hearing like very everyday, day-to-day people that grew their business just like you. I think there's a lot of conversations out there with these multi-million dollar growth stories, and people really want to hear something that is growing from a level that they can really relate to. And this episode is absolutely that. Brittany had an incredible year. She's doubled her sales year over year. She has a lot in store for 2025, and I wanted to bring you her key takeaways, the strategies that she learned throughout, and what it was like to really grow her business over 1 year. This was such a great, raw and real conversation. It was not scripted at all. We really just sat down and I was like, yeah, where are you at? Where were you? What are your thoughts? And without further ado, I'm so excited to share Brittany Hart's story with you. Hi, Brittany. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to chat. For everybody listening, who are you? What is your business? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Brittany with Brittany Hartt Designs. It is a custom-made children's clothing line located in Southwest Florida, and we hand make about 90% of our clothing that we offer.
Yes. Oh, it's so great. And what kind of made you start with handmade, custom-made clothing?
I fell into it just kind of by chance. I had my daughter in 2018.
Mhm.
And of course, when you have a girl, one of the best parts about having a girl is picking out girls' clothing.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed shopping for her, but I did notice that all of the stores pretty much carried the same things.
Mhm.
In our area, we were kind of limited to either Carter's or Target, Cat and Jack, and there wasn't really a whole lot in between. So when she was about 6 months old, I asked my husband and my mom to buy me a sewing machine for my birthday, and I
Love
had
it.
never sewn anything before that. And I just started watching YouTube videos. I found a sewing account, Sweet Red Poppy. I watched a lot of her videos and basically taught myself how to sew, and started off very limited with just making bummies, which are diaper covers,
Yeah.
and little hair bows. And it's just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, and now you do so many things. You've done swimsuits, you do dresses, you do doll
Yes.
clothes, you have so many fun different things. And something
Mm-hmm.
that I think is really interesting about what you do is the custom made side of it. So you are
Yes.
super accessible in different areas, from people just wanting, ruffles on the sleeves, or if somebody has something super specific. Kind of go into how you do that and how you've kind of made that your differentiator.
So I used to just offer collections, and it was limited to what I wanted to make. And through doing that, I noticed that a lot of times I was getting messages, hey, could you actually switch this for me? Could you do this for me?
Yeah.
And I just kind of found that the customs was really what people wanted,
Mhm.
and leaned into that. In 2020 through COVID, I was having a hard time really getting motivated. I kind of lost a lot of my creativity. I was working in the hospital at the time,
Yeah.
so I really wasn't feeling a whole lot of that creative side.
Yeah.
And I found a group that was called Everyone Counts. And what it was children who either had medical disabilities or either physical or mental, and had special needs. And that was a platform for them to be able to collaborate with businesses to do modeling, or other types of marketing opportunities for them. And I posted in there that I was looking for a couple models, and I had a couple people reach out to me, and they needed either G-tube access or
Yeah.
some type of accommodation for their clothing to make it more accessible. And that I loved doing that. Just hearing the feedback from the kids, how excited they were to be able
Yeah.
to have, a dress that looked like everybody else's clothes from the outside, but it had a little button so they could open up and access their feeding tube. So that's something that I've now incorporated into my business, is being able to help, modify or create clothing for people who may need some accessibility for their
Yeah.
clothing.
And that's so cool. And, we talk about all of these things in business of, I always say, you need this some sort of differentiator to stand out or to speak to a certain type of audience. And people often think that it's going to like pigeonhole them into a community of people that like, it's going to make my audience so small. But in that area, you were able to speak so directly to those people that they love you. You were able to provide confidence for some of these little kids. You were able to provide, like, you basically built this community of people that love you for that area, as well as people that came in that just wanted to be able to customize clothes for, again, ruffles or adding a little peplum or something like that, that they might not be for accessibility. That I think your custom side of things really just allowed people, they were able to get exactly what they wanted. And it was able to be so cute and accessible for where they need it as well.
Yeah, I don't think that adding that really limited my
No.
audience or my scope. It was just something that I could add to on top of what I was already offering
Yeah.
my customers. And I know for that community, just being included is something that they really strive for.
Yeah.
So
Well, and it
being
builds
able
such a
to include
community.
them is nice.
Exactly. It builds so much affinity for your community and building them inside of it. Like you were able to just like create a space where they felt included in everyday, day-to-day clothing, whether it was for people that needed those accessibility or not. And they were included, and it was so fun in there. So for everybody listening, Brittany was in PTP in January, I believe you started
January.
filming this in November. So, about 10 months later after after starting the program, where were you working in the hospital still, or had you just quit and decided to go all in on your business?
I had just quit. So
Yeah.
I left my job in September,
Woo!
found your podcast and binged your podcast for 3 months.
Love
And
it.
you had a round of PTP coming up, and I just knew that that was something that I needed for myself to be
Yeah.
able to grow my business and fill
Yeah.
some of those gaps.
For sure. And so where were you when you were listening to the podcast? Kind of what were you mostly struggling with? Like what were you feeling like those gaps were? Or were you just, I know I need to do these strategies and I need to, like, I know I don't know how to do them and I need to learn them.
Well, my background professionally was leadership in healthcare settings.
Yeah.
So I was a practice manager for a hospitalist group, and I had worked in that field for about 10 years. And I've had my business on the side since 2019, so 5 years now. And I pretty much treated it as a hobby
Yeah.
for 4 out of those 5 years. And then when I decided to leave my job, I knew I wanted to go all in on my business, create a better opportunity for myself as a mom and, an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
businesswoman. And I knew that product sales were very different than healthcare sales.
Yes.
Everybody needs healthcare. So it's really not hard to sell as long as you're providing quality. It's almost a given. But when you come into product sales, you're up against thousands of other businesses.
Yeah.
For me, being in children's clothing, there are so many handmade children's clothing businesses. And I knew that if I really wanted this to go well, that I needed to invest in learning strategies and how product sales works.
Yeah, 100%. And coming from somebody that does, like, you knew that you learned that for the healthcare sales side of things. And when you come into product sales, you kind of knew that sales strategy existed. You knew that it's different and there's like
Right.
nuances. But you're like, okay, I kind of know that I need something for product sales. Where was your business in January? Just so everybody kind of knows.
So my business, I was doing probably monthly drops, maybe once every 3 months with new collections. I was seeing sales, but I had the same core group of customers that
Yeah.
have been with me since 2019.
Yeah.
I was getting sales, but it obviously wasn't where I needed to be to have a business, and treat it as a business.
Yeah, for sure. And just so everybody knows as well, and then we can kind of dive into some of your takeaways and the strategies and things like that. Where is your business now once you have had time to learn the strategies, you've implemented the strategies? Where's your business now?
So already since January, I have doubled my sales from
Yippee!
last year. My approach to my growth has really been organic growth, not trying to go too hard, too fast, and burn myself out. So I've
Yeah,
really tried to build a business that would be sustainable through slow organic growth.
yeah,
PTP has really helped me with knowing the strategies and knowing what needs to be done
yeah.
in order to get your product out there and earn, people's trust in buying your product. I know that there are still areas that I need to work on,
There always will
as
be.
far
There's
as
never going to be a time in
messaging
your
and
business where you're like, I have everything perfect. It's just never going to be the
right.
case.
But I think, a year ago before PTP, I had no idea where I was going or what I would do with my business. I kind of came home and was like, I want to run my business, but
Yeah,
I don't really know what that means.
yeah,
Um, and I would have times where maybe I would have a couple orders to sew here and there. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself in between that time.
yeah.
Now I'm consistently every day, I have a plan for what needs to be done. Um, so it's definitely helped my business tremendously and my confidence too. I feel like I know what direction I want to go in with my business and I know what needs to be done in order to take it there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What I'm hearing from you is like the clarity around what to do, when to do it, and like how to prioritize all of it. And then just the confidence to actually execute. Those are two of the main things that I hear a lot.
Right.
Yeah, and I think for so many people, like you were saying, you're like you were sitting there, you're kind of like, you're like, all right, like I know I want to go all in on my business, but you're like, how the heck do I even do that? Like you're like, I can only just spend more time doing what I'm doing, but it's not really working. So how do we kind of move from there? What do you feel like were some of the major things that you actually did change? Because a lot of times people are like, okay, great, Maddie, I need a strategy, but like, what even is a strategy? What does that even look like?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway from PTP was that you teach us that community level of marketing and
Yeah,
building a community. So it's not about driving sales all the time.
yeah,
Um, and that's really what drew me to your coaching style and to PTP was that you really focus on that community.
yeah,
Being a mom and having my customer base largely as moms, we really crave that community feel.
yeah.
So, what I learned from PTP was how to add value into my business that wasn't just about selling.
100%. It's like that growing into new people, nurturing them into your community, and then selling to them in that way. And that'll get you out of just selling to that same core group of people like you were doing for so long, because you're
Right.
actually getting new people in, connecting to those new people, and then you're able to sell to them when it makes sense.
Right. And I think it's a trust relationship too with customers.
Yeah.
They want to trust that you're selling them a product that is a quality product, but also something that will add value to their lives.
Yeah.
So learning how to gain that trust with your customers so that they feel, comfortable coming to you over maybe some of your competitors.
Yeah, 100% is so much of it is it is connection, it's community. And I think so many people are like, all right, I have this product and I really want to sell it. So I'm just going to sell it every single day. And I think there's a lot of bad advice out there of business owners being like, you need to talk about your product every day and sell it every day in order for it to sell.
because it's misleading. Yes, you need to talk about your product, you need to be marketing every day, but that doesn't mean you need to be like, here's my super cute kids shirt, go and buy it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Some days you're creating that community and you're gaining their trust and you're asking them questions and you're communicating with them. And you've done such a good job of really harnessing your community into an area that people feel connected. They're there just to like be in a mom group almost, where they're connecting with people, they're bouncing ideas off of each other. And then you just so happen to sell really cute clothes alongside of it.
Right. And I want them to feel like I'm approachable, so they're
Yeah.
able to ask those questions. And I think the difference between some businesses that don't have someone facing forward to the customer base is that you don't really feel that genuine one-on-one connection. So
Yeah.
a lot of the customers that I end up chatting with just about clothing, we actually end up, chatting about a lot of personal stuff as far as our kids. And
Yeah.
a lot of my customers that started in 2019 are now my friends, which is
Yeah.
really cool too.
That is so cool. It's so cool when that happens, when you're able to build a community. Because if you are intentional enough about building your community, your community is going to be people. Like my community are my friends all the time. Like yesterday we were talking on Instagram stories about doing an in-person retreat. And when I'm looking at that, I'm literally like, this is going to be a bunch of my business friends coming into like one house and having fun. Because if you are intentional enough about building your community around somebody that you actually are, things, your values that you have, you end up attracting people that are a lot like you, that have the same heart as you, have the same interests as you. And your community really should be a group of friends that you're able to build.
Right. I think in the beginning for me, I was just trying to relate to everyone.
Yeah.
And stepping back and just, being myself and saying, this is what I stand for, this is
Yeah.
what's important to me. It really makes you feel more comfortable when you surround yourself with people who think and feel the same way and have the same values. And
Yeah.
that was another thing in PTP that we learned, was having personal pillars that
Yeah.
that your customers could relate to,
Exactly.
but not just, pulling something out of thin air, picking things that really did
Makes sense.
mean something.
Yeah. 100%. And that people they mean something to your community. And it again, it's going to attract those right people that are going to love what you do sell, as well as just love being involved in your community. Because if you can give people community, that like you have this group of people that really, really love a certain thing, and you can give them community, they're going to buy what you have just because of that community. They're like, oh, she sells this, let's do it. There's so much trust there. There's so much connection there that I think too many people come at business looking at, okay, just how can I get customers in front of me? It's like too much of a numbers focused, as opposed to like a person or like a heart focus, where you're, okay, how can I get all of these people in and move them through a funnel? It's like, yes, that is something that we talk about. We talk about how to move them through the buying cycle and all of that. But the core piece of the buying cycle is community. The core piece of your messaging, your marketing, your content, all of those things have to be there too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for me, another takeaway was when I first came into business, I felt like your success in your business was measured by the amount of sales you were bringing in
Yeah.
and the amount of money you were making. And through the last year, I've really come to realize that running a successful business doesn't equate to having, a six-figure
Yeah.
business. It's really about the freedom, the community that you have, the relationships that you build, and
Yeah.
having something that adds value to your life.
100%. And everybody's definition, I almost like hate the word success, because the immediate thought is, my success, okay, that means that I have to be making X amount of dollars. And that's why I use the word freedom so much, is because most of the people, like I want people that are here to build freedom, build that balance, be able to, like, you had 3 consistent high cash months. And normally in June, July, and August, some of the slowest months of the year, you were making really great sales. And you were like, Matt, honestly, I want to take September as kind of a break, or whatever month it was. It was September, I believe.
October.
October.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to take October as kind of a break. Your kids, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to be able to do this thing. You were able to take a step back, and your sales were still going. And to me,
Right.
that's freedom. That is success, is that you were like, I really didn't post much. I didn't have a sale. I didn't do anything. I wasn't actively selling. And you had those passive sales coming. To me, That's freedom. That's success. To some people, success is going to be making $1 million a year in their business, but I want to be the person to build a business that is your freedom. Because once you know the strategies and the tactics and the methods and all of those things, you can kind of move and shake it and you get to build a business that you want. There's too much narrative around, I need to make 6 figures in this business. I really try to even steer away from that in my marketing because some people don't want a $500,000 business. Some people don't want, and they sure, it sounds great, but what they want is to be able to be home with their kids. What they want is to be able to make this money and yes, build their brand. And I think that is so important, is the success of your business really is what you are able to do in your real life. In your real life,
Right.
you're able to enjoy it, because there's a lot of business owners out there that I've worked with that might be making $500,000 a year selling products, but they're miserable. And to me, that's not success.
Right. And that's why when I set my goals for my business and where I want to be with my business, I really take that into account where if I set a monetary goal for myself, what does that actually mean? Because I am hand making majority of my products myself. So if I were to double or quadruple my sales again, what does that mean for my free time and my ability to be there and be present with my children? So,
for sure. And there's ways to grow where you're able to keep the freedom that you have, that even if you are doubling the sales that you have right now or quadrupling your sales that you have right now, we're able to build foundations, whether you have other people help you sew, or maybe you you cap the amount of custom orders you can get a month or something like that you're able to kind of develop the behind the scenes. Again, it's your business. And because you now know how to sell to people, you have a community, you know how to market, you know how to launch, you know all of the strategies, you can say, this is the business I want to have. You get to make the decisions, and you can say, these are the things that I want to do. I will not let my business take over my life where I'm no longer able to eat dinner with my kids and pick them up from school, whatever. I need to be able to do these things. This is how much I can have. I might need to hire these people or automate this process or simplify this process. But because you know the strategies, you're able to build the business the way you want to build it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to really know that. And I think when you don't know strategy, you're like, all right, it's just I know I need to post the content. I know I need to do the thing, but what really is the thing and how do I do it? And it's just almost so overwhelming. Do you feel like business got easier and more simple for you once you did learn this?
100%. I'm doing double the sales that I was doing last year, but I feel more confident in my business, more secure in my business. I know now, hey, if I want to have a promotion or a sale, I know when I need to start marketing it, how I should start marketing it. I think there's something so freeing about being an entrepreneur, and you're not limited by a salary or a cap or a manager. It really is, if you put in the effort, you get that effort in return. Part of that effort is learning the strategies, though. And that was one of the first things that stood out to me when I left my job was, hey, there's a knowledge gap here. And we have to overcome that knowledge gap before we could even try to grow my business. So
100%. I think that's so important. And when you really look at it, it's when you know a strategy, it makes things easier. There is a purpose for a strategy. Strategy is a science, business is a science. And once you know it, the coolest thing to me is that you've messaged me on Thursday night on the 28th of the month. And you're like, Maddie, I really want to hit this sales goal. And I'm like, run a promotion. And you're like, sweet, let's do it. And you messaged me on Monday and you made an extra $1,000. You made an extra $1,200. And you're like, wow, that was easy. Let's get sewing. And that to me is being able to you fully understand the strategy. You know how it works. You have the community and you've built a business that has that simplicity to it. You've built the business that has that ease and that seamless sales.
But we also have to point out here too that I am not an overnight success story.
No, exactly.
There's a lot of work that went into it. And after PTP, there were 2 or 3 months after PTP where I was, having new collection releases and they weren't going how I had hoped for them to go. And, I would sit there with my husband and my best friend and say, man, I'm just working so hard. I don't understand, why it's not happening for me.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway from that is any strategy that you implement, it takes time, and people have to see your messaging over and over and over again before they start to trust you.
Yes.
So it's not something that happens overnight. And I think sometimes we go into any type of educational program or whatnot, and we're like, hey, I did this, I worked really hard, and now, everything's going to come to me, but it really doesn't. You have to keep going. And at no point in that time was I like, man, I want to give up. It's just not working. Like, I would sit there and I'd be like, well, clearly I'm not doing something right because, so let me go back to the drawing board. Let me rewatch some of the trainings and see where I maybe goofed up or where I could do something a little bit better. And that consistency is really where you start to see results.
For sure. And I think that is, you hit the nail on the head with saying, like, you needed to implement and get your messaging across. You needed to implement and get the content out there. You needed to get your audience to really understand what it is you were making and really get exposed to this strategy for long enough. And it's something that I see is like that 2-month mark after PTP is usually when people start to kind of see it all work. You have to implement the full kind of scale of things for a little while in order to get, like, you really start to get those higher cash months. You start to see the momentum start to build, because you're right. Like, community isn't built overnight. You can't just all of a sudden change what you're saying and for some people it might be if they have a big enough community or they've been nurturing and they just need to make some small tweaks. But especially in my clients in PTP who are implementing completely new messaging, completely new content because they had that knowledge gap. It takes a little time to perfect it, B, like, get your audience to really understand it, and C, have enough consistency for it to really start to see those results. But once they start, that momentum builds and it all kind of starts to build for you from there.
Right.
Yeah. And you just can't give up when you're like, all right, sometimes my clients are like, Maddie, it's still not working. I'm like, you just need to keep going. Once you know the strategy, consistency does make the difference. It's when you're just winging it and thinking, I'm going to consistently keep doing what I'm doing. Another key point that you said was, when it wasn't working, you were like, okay, what still am I missing? What can I go back and what changes can I make in order to see the change in the result? And it all kind of started to work for you from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that you taught us was really bringing the energy to launches too.
Oh my gosh.
And then when you're not seeing those sales come in or it's not going the way you want, like, don't go crawl in a hole, continue to show up, bring that excitement. And there actually was one of my collection releases that wasn't going so well. And I sat there, you need to make bracelets. What would Maddie do? Because I actually sat there and I was like, okay, well, this isn't going the way that I want it to go. If I were to message Maddie right now, what would she tell me to do?
Yeah.
And I thought about it and I was like, oh, well, she would tell me to keep showing up. If I only get one sale, screenshot that sale. Somebody's, wanting this item. So I think that's a big key point too, is that we control the energy that we bring to our products.
Yeah.
And if you're selling a product, you really have to be confident about the product that you're selling. Why is it so great? Why should they choose you over one of your competitors? So that was another takeaway from PTP, was just how to bring that energy to your collection releases or to your products.
For sure. I mean, even if someone was standing in front of you and they were like, this shirt is like kind of okay, you should go and buy it. Like, you're going to be like, what do you mean? Like, you clearly don't even like it that much. But if someone in front of you is like, this is literally the best shirt I've ever had. My kids love it. It's, it has UV protection in it. Oh my gosh. Like, people are going to be like, all right, give me some of that. Like, I want some of that. Off of your energy so much. And honestly, energy alone can make more sales. Like, if you can just be the most excited person about your product, people love energy. And you've learned the 4 types of buyers. Like, some people do one type of buyer does buy just feeding off of energy. So if you can just bring that energy, it's going to help in so many different ways. And I'm so glad that you do see that. I remember that message you sent me. You were like, you messaged me on like a Monday or like a couple of days later. You're like, Maddie, I only had like, a couple $100 in sales night one. I was really bummed, but I kept posting and now we're at like $2,000 or whatever that might be.
Yeah, we ended up selling out.
Exactly. And that's the thing is so many people give up when they're like, oh, nobody's buying. It's like you crawl into this hole because it feels like a personal attack. You're like, shoot, I've been working so hard. Why is nobody buying? People must hate this. My product, like, I know my product's great. Why don't other people see it? How could I still be doing this? And you get so upset with yourself. But if you can just almost detach a little bit and say, no, like, I know if I know the strategy, I know how to show up. If you keep showing up and posting the right content, posting the messaging, having that energy that we're talking about, people will come. And you ended up selling out after the initial launch didn't have that much excitement.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. I love seeing it that way. Brittany, when you really look at your business as kind of just, okay, you're a business owner, you now know this strategy. What is like a big, almost like words of wisdom for small businesses who are where you were last year, this time of year, or like in January before you invested, you're there. And now that you're kind of on the other side of that, you know that you have the strategy in order to hit higher cash months, keep building. What would you tell them? What would you tell kind of that past self of yours?
Words of wisdom. Number one, stop comparing yourself to other businesses because every business has a unique circumstance. And I can't compare my handmade business to another business that manufactures or, whatnot. The second word of wisdom is also if you do have knowledge deficiencies, find some way to overcome them.
Yeah.
Because you're only as good as what you know, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And one way that I found you was through listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
And you talk about a lot of strategies on your podcast. You give a lot of wonderful information.
Mm-hmm.
And I would listen to your podcast and I'm like, well, I'm doing that wrong. I'm doing that wrong. Yeah. I know which strategies I'm not doing correctly, but I don't know how to do them correctly.
Yeah.
So I think those are my two biggest takeaways is, don't compare yourself to other businesses. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And invest in yourself too.
Yeah. And I hear that so much is like, now that you know my strategy, you can go and listen to my podcast and it's almost like, oh, it's more helpful. I can totally see what she's talking about here. But sometimes like we can't give absolutely everything, especially because how custom every business is. Like you just said, I could sit down and talk to you in PTP and say, this is exactly the content that makes sense for your business. This is exactly the community, the messaging, things like this that really fits your business. Whereas when I'm talking to an audience of thousands, it's hard to really give that specificity that in PTP, you can get the what, why, how, and exactly the customization to your business.
Right. And I think there were 9 of us in PTP during my session, and each of us were in very different places with our business and had different goals that we wanted to accomplish too. So even in that aspect, I had to say, don't compare yourself to this person or that person, really focused on your own goals and what you're doing. Because I think it's very easy as a business owner to get distracted by what everybody else is doing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And for me, I found it the best for my creativity to not look at what other people are doing and just lean into what I was wanting to do for myself.
Yeah. I mean, there's no two businesses that are the same. Coming from me, who has like literally looked at hundreds of businesses at this point and helped so many people. That's why I prioritize personalized support, is because no businesses are the same. I can't teach absolutely every business the exact same thing because everybody's at they have a slightly different process. You're custom made. Some people are manufactured. It's going to be a little bit of a different strategy. And you can just put your own blinders on. That's why I always say, like, mute people that are in your industry or other business owners. If you find yourself comparing, unfollow them, or like try to get away where you don't have to see the people all the time. Even people that do what I do, I want to be following them because we are in a network, we are in a community, but I can't see what they're doing every day because then it would cloud me. Oh, they have that type of program. I need to make that too. And all of a sudden you get kind of competitive with other people where we all have different goals. We all have different visions. You have to stay in that own lane.
And that doesn't mean that you can't support other businesses, because a big piece of my business is that community over competition. If
For
you're
sure.
in my group or on my socials, you see that I'm constantly sharing even businesses that are very similar to mine that sell similar
Yeah.
products. And you can support other businesses without that taking away from you. If anything, that's only helped me grow my business, because we do have similar customer bases. And if we're
Mhm.
supporting each other, we're just both tapping into that same customer base.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to be careful not to try to compare yourself to somebody else or what someone else is doing, and just
Yeah.
try to keep your own creativity.
100%. Brittany, this has been so helpful. I know so many people just like to hear from a person that like really did go from where they are and really got to the other side. They know the strategy, and just hearing some kind of real actual life stories of real people. I think sometimes people think these people, like people that are in programs like this or build their business, are so different than the average. Where can people come and stalk you, check out your business? What's your website? What's your Instagram? Things like that.
So my Instagram is at bheart_designs. Facebook, our Facebook VIP group or community group, I think it's Brittany Hartt Designs Exclusives and Motherhood Community, because we are a motherhood community. And then our website is www.brittanyhartdesigns.com. I feel like what I've attained through PTP, or just in the last year of my business, is if I can do it, anyone can do it. My goals are definitely very attainable. So yeah, if you wanted to pick my brain or chat with me or ask me about PTP, since I've gone through it, I will only tell you to do it, because it has been the best thing that I've done for myself.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I know people do love to slide in people's DMs and be like, hey, can you just like answer this question for me? That's not coming straight from Maddie. So thank you for that. I'll link all of her stuff below. If you guys want to check out her custom clothing, is incredible as well. I can't wait. I have a little new niece and I'll have to stock up on some things. It is so much fun to buy for little girls. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, Brittany. I will chat with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
What a wonderful conversation that was. I absolutely loved sitting down with Brittany and really just hearing her story, not just because it fueled my little words of affirmation heart of what she really saw, but she is my entire mission. She was running a business, she was stressed out, she was overwhelmed, and we were able to add strategy, but also add so much freedom and harmony and balance into her schedule, where now she's at home with her kids, she's actually enjoying her business, she feels like things are easier, and that is my entire goal. Yes, we all love some money wins, major growth. She doubled her sales year over year, but my favorite stories that I get to hear are those major mindset wins where she feels confident, she feels clear, she's able to enjoy her business, she's able to enjoy time with her kids and not feel as guilty, and all of those tangible kind of freedom goals. We love a little bit of both, but those just hit my heart because that really is my mission here. If you really resonated with Brittany, where she was in January of 2024, are you really resonating with feeling stuck, feeling pressure, knowing you have a knowledge gap, but not really knowing how to bridge that subject, and you are really looking for the level of support and strategy and structure that she was able to implement inside of this past year, would love to provide you the same support that she got inside of Product to Profit. It is a completely customized business growth program to fit your needs, your vision, and get you kind of the strategy that you need, and help you get to those consistent online sales. So if you are interested in that, we have a new cohort starting in January. Feel free to reach out on my Instagram at thisismadisonpage. You can DM me PTP and I will send you some more details. Would love to chit chat and support you and really grow your business in this next year as well. I hope you have a wonderful day. As always, my DMs are open. If you want to check out Brittany's business, you can go into the show notes and look at her website there. She is Brittany Hartt Designs. I am so excited that you were able to hear her story. Have a great day. I love you. I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner always.